What's up, everyone? We're back with another episode of Dub Jellison Podcast, the first of 2021. And I have a very special guest today, former Purdue captain and San Francisco 49er, Jake Thieneman. Jake, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Great. Thank you so much for coming on. I know
Appreciate you having me.
I know we kind of got this rolling pretty quickly. So what have you been up to recently?
So the last couple months, I've been in Indy, and I've been starting a digital marketing company with, my business partner is one of my best friends from Purdue. His name's Preston Mantell. So that's really what I've been working on pretty heavily over the last couple months.
Mm-hmm. And I know back in, I think it was April, things started coming out about you working with a nonprofit to help come up with ventilators, not only for the COVID-19 pandemic, but also for developing countries because there's a need for them. So talk a little bit about that and how that idea kind of got started.
Yeah, absolutely. So back in March, my partner Preston and I started working with a nonprofit called the Ventilator Project, and it was actually started by his older brother. His name's Tyler Mantell. So when the COVID pandemic hit, there was this massive shortage of ventilators. So hospitals had this huge demand for ventilators. Third world countries across the world had this huge demand for ventilators. So Preston's brother had a robotics startup. So he kind of took his team over and said, how can we design a cheap, easy to manufacture ventilator to start producing for all of these hospitals, all of these third world countries. So they needed, a lot of media attention so they could start recruiting people to help. They can start getting donations. They can start getting this nonprofit off the ground. That was kind of our first dive into digital marketing. Just did what we can to get the word out, get them some media attention so they can start getting donations. They can start getting volunteers. They were able to get some crazy, like 200 plus volunteers in the course of a couple of weeks, raise $100,000 in donations quite quickly. So they got off the ground very quick. And they've been running pretty well over the last couple months. So it was a really cool experience to start working with them. And that kind of like got our feet wet just with our first digital marketing experience. And that kind of set us on a path of, I think we want to start a company around this. We just want to start doing more work like this.
Mm-hmm. And obviously you're in a position to create change, being a part of the NFL with the 49ers at that point. So talk about that and why you wanted to do this.
So, I mean, really, like COVID was affecting everybody. It has affected everybody. It's a global pandemic. Just seeing the struggle that put on so many people, and how hard it was for people going through all of that. Wanted to do something we could to help. So when this, when this opportunity came up, it was a no-brainer. Like, yes, absolutely, anything we can do to help the situation, help the crisis that's going on. And so, the next question was like, what can we do? Being given my background in football, my connections through the Purdue Sports Network, and then, my time out in San Fran, my connections to the media out there, just started, calling, texting, emailing people that, I'd come across previously and just said, hey, we're doing this. Is there any way you can help us and get the word out? And that's kind of how it started. Got a couple articles out and some news outlets. Then started doing a couple TV interviews. Next thing I know, we're on the news in Indy. We're on the news out in San Fran. We're on NBC out on the West Coast. And so, started getting a lot of media attention around it, and just keep building from there. So it was a really cool experience to kind of just see things grow and keep building like that. But yeah, just started with just doing anything we could to help out. They're doing a lot of great work over at the Ventilator Project. They've made tremendous strides over the last couple months. So anything that we could do to help them and aid them in that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. And you talked about your digital marketing business and how this kind of got your feet wet to move on to do bigger and better things. So talk about what that is, what you guys specifically do, and what you guys hope to move forward and do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been an interesting journey over the last couple months, starting a company. It was something that Preston and I, we were pledge brothers at Purdue, so we knew each other for a long time before this. Had always talked about doing, but once you take that first step and get in, it's a lot of learning. I mean, I'm sure you experienced it with the podcast. It's just a lot of learning as you go, a lot of picking things up. So over the last couple months, it's been a lot of getting, what projects can we get, what companies can we work with, and what can we do for them. And now we're really starting to hone that we do. What is the unique offering that we give to companies, and then what are we trying to scale? So we're really starting to hone in on a couple things. Those things are, running e-commerce stores, running digital ads, doing email marketing on the back end, and setting up a complete sales channel for e-commerce stores. So that's kind of one side that we work on. And the other side we work on is we do personal branding for athletes and CEOs. So, one CEO we work with, he's got a few digital products, a course, a book, and then he does group coaching for CEOs. So we're building like his social media profile, putting out a lot of LinkedIn content as a sales funnel towards his book and towards his other digital products.
Mm-hmm. And who was that you were talking about?
The CEO we're working with.
Mm.
Yeah, his name is Peter Fuller.
Oh, okay. You kind of cut out there for a second.
Oh, I got you.
Was on that. So obviously you moved on. You've kind of moved on from football. Are you ever considering going back and playing again, or do you think that you'll be done?
So I'm always open to it, man. My phone's always open. I always take a call. It really was, had some things happen earlier this year that, ended up not being on the 49ers anymore. And then due to COVID and kind of my experience in the league, not having a ton of game film, and then another injury that I ended up having, it was just kind of hard to get an opportunity for a workout. So that's where, kind of had two options, could kind of, sit around and wait for, maybe an opportunity is going to come, maybe something will happen. But that's just not me. It's just not my approach. So it's just going to get busy and dive into something else, see what opportunities I can find. And so that's where it was just kind of a natural next step of what we were already doing with the ventilator project. And it was things that I had been thinking about before, things I talked about pressing before. So it was just a natural next step to dive right in and get to work on something new.
Mm-hmm. So looking back at your time in the NFL, what do you take away from it? Like, what were your experiences? I know you're a part of 3 organizations: the Giants, Colts, and Niners.
Yeah, it was pretty cool being able to see those 3 organizations. And really, it's kind of crazy, like being able to see 3 teams like that quickly. Like, because usually it's like you play in high school and like it's the same team for 4 years. You play in college, if you don't transfer, it's the same team for 4 or 5 years. But I got to see 3 teams over the course of 6 months, which was pretty incredible. It was cool to see the cultural differences in each team, and how that kind of affected how good each team was. Culture is everything. It's, making sure like everyone's on the same page. Everyone is locked in and focused, ready to come in every day, like willing to do whatever it takes to win. It's the same difference makers that I saw at Purdue, and it was interesting to see how that kind of varied across the teams.
Mm-hmm.
It was also pretty crazy just seeing a lot of great players, a lot of the guys you hear about TV, starting to be in rooms with those guys. Because with me, like with my journey, like come from like humble beginnings, small school, like walked on to Purdue, had to work my way up. So and then going undrafted again, just having to work my way up. So being able to get into, those rooms with the New York Giants, those rooms with the Colts, and then with the 49ers, it was pretty wild.
What were the main differences between I know Kyle Shanahan's the coach of the Niners, and then you got Reich at the Colts, and then I forget who the Giants coach was. Was it Sherman when you were there?
Yeah, it was Sherman.
So what were the main differences between the culture that they kind of set forth?
It's hard to put to describe it exactly. I would say the 49ers, was the best team I was, had the pleasure of being with, and they had the best culture, hands down. It was it wasn't like anything had to be enforced. It wasn't had to police the locker room. Everyone knew what they had to do. Everyone came in every day. It was we're going to do everything we can to win. Winning is the ultimate goal. We're going to do everything we can to do that. But it was a relaxed, chill vibe, but very focused. and everyone was locked in. There weren't a lot of like distractions. There weren't people like, had their mind in other places or just like trying to be selfish and play for themselves. It was all about focusing on the team. And that's all the stuff you hear about of being, what it takes to be a great team. But it was really cool to like really see that in action. Because in other teams, and teams in the past, you see bits and pieces and things come together, but to really see it all come together and see what it can do on the field was pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, that 49ers defense that you were a part of, they had some savages. I mean, Buckner was on there.
Oh, dude, it was.
So what was it like to kind of see how they worked and what kind of relationships did you build with some of those guys?
It was crazy to see the level of dedication and focus and work that these guys put in. I work my ass off. I come in every day, and to see that those guys are doing the same thing, and those guys have been doing the same thing for longer than I have, which was pretty crazy. Just seeing the skill level of some of these guys. So I was, I play safety, so I was in the room with Richard Sherman, and he was like the leader of our room. His personality obviously is wild. He comes in, he's got a lot of energy, loves to compete, and loves to talk about it. But he's an outstanding leader. He's a great role model. And just like an overall like great dude, like always looking out for the team, always looking out for, every one of his guys, including, including me. He was like extremely welcoming when I first got there. Like first day, just walked up, "Hey, I'm Richard." And I was like, "Hey, like I know who you are, dude. I've been watching you for years." But he was just a really good dude, really welcoming, like always, asking me like questions about first, how was I adjusting, questions on the playbook, question about life and, life in the NFL and how to handle things. He was a great mentor.
Mm-hmm. I feel like he's what were you saying?
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think he's kind of like the role model of being in the NFL and also taking care of yourself as a pro and for after football. I mean, graduated from Stanford. He's such a smart dude, not to mention an all pro. But I mean, I feel like people kind of have these preconceived notions about him just because he likes to talk a little bit. But when you peel back the layers, was he different off the field than he was on the field?
I wouldn't say he was different on the field or off the field than he was on the field. I think he had the same mentality and approach. I think, like you said, a lot of people get things twisted with the amount he likes to trash talk, but it's really like that's just a part of being competitive. Mm-hmm. Especially for him, that's just a part of being competitive. And he is an incredibly competitive person, but he has the right mindset about it, where it's like it's not like it's he doesn't forget like the goal. Like he doesn't let the competitiveness and the trash talk take away from the goal of competing and winning on the field. And that's the mindset that he still takes off the field. It's like he's going to make sure that he's doing things the right way. He's getting his ducks in a row, and competing off the field. And so that's where he's done an outstanding job of building that persona and that following off the field, and building his business interests and his charity foundation. And doing a lot of great work there. So yeah, he does a great job with that.
Did he ever run his mouth at practice, trash talking the wide receivers and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Do you have any good Richard Sherman stories that you could share?
Yes. So one of them was the flying out to the Super Bowl. So going through the playoffs, hearing different guys talk about, like, obviously, like, focus on the next game. That's all you're talking about. But if you win a couple games, you're going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So and you got to prepare for that. So you can't just show up to the Super Bowl, wearing any old sweatsuit. So he told us for the plane ride to the Super Bowl, we're all going to get Versace jumpsuits. And so he true to his word, we win the NFC Championship. He gets our sizes, gets our numbers, names, all of that. And, in the locker room a couple days before the game, we got a big Versace jumpsuit. And so we all, took a picture on the tarmac in front of the jet before we took off from San Fran, going to Miami for the Super Bowl. in our Versace jumpsuits. So that was just one thing like that always sticks out in my mind. Not just for like, Versace's cool and all, but like that was kind of his whole MO was like, you always got to take care of the team, always take care of your guys, because then your guys will take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing that really sticks out about him. Just good ass dude.
Yeah, that's dope. I always see like I follow Cameron Klein on Instagram. He's a Colts lineman, and like he posted all these different things that like his defensive group got him. Like Darius Leonard got him. I think he got him like Uggs, and then like Justin Houston was buying stuff for the defense and things of that nature. I mean, so guys, the vets really welcome the younger guys. I feel like, and I didn't like since I've started this podcast. I've had the honor of talking to a bunch of athletes that have been in the NFL and NBA, and they all talk about like how welcoming they are. I remember I had Vincent Edwards on, and he was talking about how like he still has Carmelo Anthony's number and can text him whenever. Just say, hey, what's up? If he ever needs anything, it's like I didn't really think about that. But what kind of other leaders were there, and what kind of things did they do to kind of welcome you to the league?
Yeah, man, absolutely. Like I saw that same thing. And that was another thing that kind of played in the culture aspect was like the teams with better culture were the teams that, the veterans, the playmakers, the leaders were very welcoming and made sure like, all the new guys got, taken care of, introduced, comfortable, all of that. So like, Richard Sherman was one dude that was super welcoming. Another dude, Purdue guy, Raheem Mostert, running back from the Niners. He's been crushing it the last couple of years. He was super welcoming too. We had played together at Purdue. So when he was a fifth year senior, I was a true freshman. I was like true freshman walk-on season playing scout team against him. So he was the running back at that time. So it was pretty cool to see him again. He was super welcoming, just, making sure had adjustment of just moving out there was taken care of, and then got up to speed pretty fast with like schedule, playbook, all of that stuff. Another dude, George Kittle, dude, you can't say enough good things about George Kittle. He's a beast on the field, but he's a good dude off the field, and he was super welcoming too. It was cool talking, just having the Big Ten connection with him, playing in Iowa. He was another dude that was just, super friendly, super welcoming there. I can text all those guys today, they hit me back. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool getting there and being able to see those guys, because like guys like Richard, like I've been watching him all through high school and college, and the first time I see him, he introduced himself, shakes my hand, all that. It was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. So going back to I guess this past season, obviously Purdue didn't have the year that we all wanted them to. So what were your thoughts on the year and what we can build on from this?
It's a tough year. I hate to make the, not making the COVID excuse, but obviously affects it a little bit with coming into initial camp back in August, thinking you're going to get. I'm just dealing with all that throughout the season. I think the biggest thing to take away from this is like how important it is to have like a cohesive team, and have a good team culture. That was kind of what I was talking about with the NFL teams. Not that they didn't do a good job with that this year, but I think that with everything going on and all the shuffling, it was more important this year than ever to have really strong leadership, really cohesive culture, really making sure everyone's 100% dedicated. And I think that there were a couple of times along the year where maybe we didn't necessarily have all of that, didn't have all of those pieces. So that's one thing that definitely made it tough. So yeah, and then my brother was out there, so I was watching it pretty closely, with seeing how they did and everything. It was kind of crazy to change from kind of the first couple of games to the last couple of games, looking like maybe not necessarily the same team, but I think we're gonna be all right. Like still have a ton of great playmakers there. Still have a lot of great leaders there. Still 100% believe in Brohm and the coaching staff. So like none of that changing. Like they're outstanding group of people. Gonna do a great job coming back next year.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned your brother Brennan. What was it like watching him now and then playing with him for a couple seasons at Purdue?
Dude, it was absolutely incredible. Like playing with him at Purdue, both of us playing at the same time was one of the funniest experiences in my life. Like it was one of the greatest things. We played together in high school. So we went to Garrett Catholic, which is like a small Catholic school in Indiana. We were like 2A, 3A, depending on what year. Mm-hmm. My senior year, his sophomore year, we were both starting. We were both like safety, outside linebacker hybrids, playing on defense at the same time. And like that was super fun. And so then when I decided to walk on at Purdue, we started talking about like, yo, like what if you came here too? We both ended up playing. We both ended up starting at safety. It was like, oh yeah, dude, that'd be crazy. Like that'd be this wild thing, saying like it's off in the future. Mm-hmm. And then just year over year, just keep working, keep moving up. And going into that season, it was my 5th year season, his redshirt sophomore year. It was like, okay, like this is gonna be a thing. Like this is gonna happen. I just remember like talking to him before the year, and it was just like just stories like, dude, there's gonna be a time we combine on a tackle, and it's gonna be great, and they're gonna like announce both our names, and then there's gonna be a time like there's just gonna be all these celebrations and all this stuff that happens. It's gonna be really sweet. So I think it was the 4th game of the season. It was Boston College. It was homecoming. It was a noon game. That was gonna be the first game. We knew ahead of time. It was gonna be the first game that like he really started subbing in on defense and like taking several drives. So it was like, I think it was like 3rd or 4th drive of the game, and we're sitting on the bench. We're sitting on the bench before we go out, and Coach Poindexter says, "All right, Brennan, you're up." We just look at each other and we're just like, "All right, man, here we go. Like, let's do it. Like, this is time." So it was just absolutely wild. And then in that game, I don't remember exactly when it was in the game. It was definitely later, like 3rd or 4th quarter. AJ Dillon, running back for Boston College, he plays with the Packers now. Was just running around the right side. Brennan was a free safety coming down. I was a strong safety on the opposite side, tracking from the backside. And we both hit him at the same time. We combined on a tackle out of bounds, and the announcer goes on the tackle, it's Thieneman and Thieneman. It was just one of those things where like, holy shit, like we dreamed about that moment for so many years. We thought, it started about this crazy thing like what if, and then we just kept working against that moment. We've got more moments, more stories like that. So it was pretty incredible. It was so much fun just interacting with my family, playing with him through that season. It was just one of the greatest accomplishments I think I've ever had.
Yeah, that's super cool. So your youngest brother, Dylan,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's your youngest, but your other brother Dylan, he's playing for Westfield. Do you think he'll suit up for Purdue too, and you'll give the Anthrops a little run for their money as a Purdue family?
I would love nothing more than to see him suit up for Purdue. I think it'd be pretty incredible. That's we've been training him. Obviously, he's been exposed to it since he was super young. And he's a super dedicated player. He works his ass off. Dude works incredibly hard. So and he's an outstanding athlete. So I think he'll definitely hopefully be able to get to that point. Whether he goes to Purdue, or not, that's his decision. I hope he can, but it's whatever he ends up doing. He decides to go to Purdue, I think we can definitely give the Anthrops a run for their money for Purdue families. Be interesting though. He's got to. We tell him it's like they've got to offer him though. Brennan and I walked on. He's not gonna be a walk on anymore.
Yeah. So you talked about that walk on. What was your recruiting experience like, and how'd you end up coming to the decision to choose Purdue?
It was pretty crazy experience. Started like I went to a small school, so I didn't get I don't get a ton of exposure. So that's one thing that made it difficult. So, put together my highlight tape, started emailing coaches, started calling coaches, went to the camps, went to the combine. So I did all of that, trying to get noticed. I had made contact with people at Purdue. I had talking to them. They weren't really like looking into me, but like they knew who I was. But I was mostly getting recruited by some FCS schools, like D1 AA schools. There were a few that were looking at me. There were a couple of Ivy League schools I was really gunning for. And those kind of like, they all told me like, yo, we really like you. We're going to wait to offer scholarships until like, see the first 3 games of your senior season. Right before right before my senior season, we were doing like our testing at the end of the summer. So like, what's your new squat max, bench max, power clean? Mm-hmm. I was going to power clean 265 and I broke my wrist. Mm-hmm. And then I missed the first 3 games of the season. So then like none of those schools ended up offering me. And so I was like, oh dang. So I had a couple choices. I was like, I could go to I think it was Dayton to play. I could go to this small FCS school to play. I could go to a couple other places and walk on, or I could go to Purdue and walk on. And so basically it was like, the decision was, do I want to go be, big fish in a small pond, go to a small school where, I'm pretty confident I can play and have a good career and all that? Or do I want to like, be a small fish in a big pond, go to Purdue, see what I can do, work my ass off for a few years and see what I can make of it and take that big opportunity. So I ended up, going to Purdue. That's just kind of how I'm wired. Like I'm gonna take on the biggest challenge possible. I'm gonna set the highest goal for myself, and then I'm gonna work my ass off every day in order to get there. And so that's kind of what that was like. Was ended up in the spring, like officially getting in the spring of my senior year, so spring of 2014, getting my like official offer to walk on, and join Purdue. So that's what I decided to do. And I didn't even get like a preferred walk-on spot. It wasn't like most guys for football, they'll report to campus like the second week of June for summer workouts. All scholarship guys report then. Some walk-ons will come at the start of camp and still be like a preferred spot. I was technically like a tryout guy, but I didn't have to try out. I didn't join the team until school started because that's when you can add extra guys to the roster. So yeah, I was like the last guy on the roster my first year. It's kind of funny, but it was an opportunity, so you just gotta take it and run with it.
Yeah, I mean, you turned it into something great. Talk about that journey from starting as a walk-on at Purdue, being overlooked, to becoming a team captain and one of the leaders on the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was kind of it's kind of like crazy to look back on in retrospect, because I remember like when I first, like the very first week I got there, the first week of school, we had a game that week. And so it was like my 4th day there. I'm sitting in the back of the team meeting room, and like the captains at that time, it was like Sean Robinson, Justin Sims, Ryan Russell. I forget who the 4th captain was. It might have been Raheem. I don't know if he was a captain or not. I don't know. Anyway, those guys were the captains, and just like hearing those guys talk before the game and all that stuff, I was like, dang, like that'd be crazy. Like from where I was and like where I started with that, like it would be crazy to like get to be captain, be in that spot. And so like I wanted that, and I set that as like the that's the target, that's the goal, and it was just what can I do every day to work up there. And for the first couple of years, it was like really freaking hard. It's it's hard to make that jump from walk on to a scholarship player, just because it's hard to get noticed, it's hard to make an impact, it's hard to compete against these guys. And so like there were definitely like a lot of setbacks along the way, like a lot. Like I've had a ton of surgeries over my time. I've played in 0 spring games because I was always recovering from surgery at that time. And then just like shuffling to the roster, competing against new guys. The coaching change was a big adjustment, having to just work through all of that. So it was just like a crazy experience. Just like keep fighting through all that and keep moving forward. There's like a lot of like crazy points along the way where I didn't know if it was going to end up working out, but just had to like keep going forward, keep pushing on, and ended up working out. So it was pretty crazy.
And I mean, you look at the team this past year, excuse me. You got Xander Horvath and you have Aiden O'Connell, who started their careers as walk-ons. Um, and then they were our starting quarterback and running back. What kind of advice would you give to walk-ons, not only at Purdue, but at any school, for how they should approach coming to campus and becoming a leader like you did?
Yeah, definitely. That's a good question. And shout out to Aiden and Xander, man. Those guys, proud of those. They worked extremely hard to get where they are too. So really proud of those guys. The advice I would give is like you have to know the situation you're coming into, and then you have to accept it, and then you just have to be ready to work. You can't like fight the gravity of the situation. You just have to understand like, hey, like there are scholarship players. You're a walk-on. You're gonna have to fight for absolutely every opportunity you get. You're gonna have to fight at every step along the way. You just have to accept that, and then you have to be willing to put in the work. And if you're not willing to accept that, you're not willing to put in the work, then maybe reconsider if it's exactly what you want to do. Just because it's an extremely hard process. It wears you down. And so if you're just like mentally, if you're not ready for it, if you're not dedicated to go the full distance, it might not work out. And I don't say that to be like, don't do it. I'm just saying like, it's tough. So, you gotta be ready to put in the work, and kind of see that too with guys that join the team each year. It's like most guys that join the team as walk-ons don't last after the first year. Just because it's tough.
Yeah. So I wanted to get back to, you kind of mentioned it before with the coaching change from Hazell to Brohm. So what was that kind of transition like for you and the team as a whole? And did you notice a culture change at all?
Yeah, noticed a culture change immediately, just right away. So I guess Hazell got fired midway through the 2016 season, and that was the first season that I kind of really started to play. I started off on like the beginning of the year was like one special team, and then the third game of the year I was like on two special teams, and the fourth game I was like on three special teams, and then we weren't very good, so we were getting killed. And so at the end, whenever we were getting killed in the second half, they'd start subbing me in, and I'd go in and like I remember like Maryland, we were getting blown out, and I went in and made 4 tackles, and then like Penn State, we were getting blown out, went in and made 4 tackles. So like just started just getting opportunities. It was finally my third year, started getting opportunities. And making the most of it, going in and making plays, even though we're getting killed by like 30 points, just trying to get noticed. And so then like steadily started making more of an impact. At the same time, we weren't doing very well. So like halfway through the season, Hazell got fired. That was pretty wild, just from the sense that like the leader of kind of our organization was now gone. Coach, why am I blanking on his name? The interim head coach that took over.
I was trying to think about it too. I can't remember his name.
I feel terrible that I'm blanking on his name right now. I'll think of it here in a second. But he's an outstanding coach. He did a great job taking over for us. And just like he was the type of guy that if out of anyone, if he needed to rally a group of guys to just go run through a brick wall, he was the guy to do it. So him taking over was pretty solid and just kind of getting us through the rest of the season. But it was kind of crazy in the sense that like we didn't really know what to think of things. We kind of just lost a lot of organization, lost a lot of direction without having a leader. But at the same time, I was kind of starting to make more of an impact and really excited at that. And that built up to the last game of the season. I got my first start against IU, and then ended up getting my first interception. So my season ended on like a super high note where I was super excited about what I was able to make it to. But as a team, we kind of weren't. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of shook things up. So when the new staff got in the spring, immediately it was that culture shift that you mentioned. Like it was focusing on the right stuff, focusing on winning. It was just like, I would say, just brought in more of a winning culture, started focusing on the right things instead of a lot of the other things that just don't really like drive you forward. So that was something I noticed immediately. And it was I would say it was a little more intense in practice. Practices just felt different. They had a different like level of importance around them. So felt that immediately. And then it was just that first spring, everyone had to compete and prove themselves again. And so that's where it was like crazy for me. Um, coming off last season, I felt like I was so close to like really making it and breaking through and like, becoming the starter and all that. To where like that spring got knocked back down, had to work my way up. They brought in a transfer to kind of play over me. So had to work my way back up. And then over the course of that spring, I broke my hand in the 5th practice of the spring. And it was right before spring break. So I broke it on like a Wednesday. I got surgery on a Friday and then had spring break and then came back, missed a week of practice. And then after that, they were able to like wrap it up in a playing cast so I can start playing. And so then I practiced for a week. That following scrimmage that week, started playing. I was second string at the time. My hand is broken and it's wrapped up. Starting defense, starting safeties weren't playing that well. So then they're like, all right, screw it, pulled them, put me in. Jake, you're starting now. I'm running and playing first drive. I'm playing really well. I had like 2 tackles. They throw the ball in the corner of the end zone. Cornerback takes it up. I'm running across the field. I dive. I catch it, and I break my collarbone.
Jesus Christ, Jake.
So I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm fighting. There's this new staff here, new culture. We're changing. We're going places. I'm trying to fight. I break my hand. I come back. Still working through it. I get promoted to first string, making plays. I break my collarbone. I'm like, gosh, like all these obstacles coming my way. So then, just had to recover over the summer, came back in the fall, just the most locked in I've ever been for a fall camp. Super excited with the staff. They had us ready and we were going to play Louisville and Lucas Oil as the first game of the year. And we were playing Lamar Jackson fresh off of his Heisman Trophy. So just getting ready for that. Ended up winning the starting job in camp just outright. Really starting to differentiate myself, got awarded my scholarship, and then just started running with it. And that was the same time, this new coaching staff, new culture, really started to show a little bit. We lost that first game against Louisville, but we competed really hard against Lamar and a good team, and that got people pretty excited. And then started winning games that season. So the new coaching staff, I think they did a great job at the start. Instilling a good culture, instilling more of a winning culture. I think we've got a ways to go as a program still to really become a winning culture, and what that means week in and week out, and how to carry that through, not just winning, 7 games a year, 6 games a year, but, what does it mean to be an 8, 10 win game team? I think it's like, it has to do with like the culture of the people, like truly accepting that. So, still a ways to go in that, work in progress, but the coaching staff definitely has like instilled more of a winning culture, and they've been good about doing that.
Mm-hmm. I looked up the interim coach's name. It was Gerard Parker.
Yeah. Oh my God. Coach Parker was, he was an intense dude, but he was just like a good dude, high character guy. So like really, really enjoyed playing with him. Really liked him as a coach. I think he's coaching like West Virginia now.
Yeah, I think you're right. He went to Penn State, and now he's at West Virginia now.
Yep.
So he's doing well. So I know we're about to run out of time, but talked about it a little bit before we got on, but it's around the 2-year anniversary since the death of Tyler Trent. So that season, talk about how you guys were able to rally around him and kind of use him as motivation for something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Getting to know Tyler and his family, and that whole experience, it was one of those like truly eye-opening and like truly inspirational experiences. It's something that like just gives you perspective on like life and what's important and what to value and how to approach things. And it's something that like super he's a truly inspiring person. I was like super, thankful to have gotten to know him for a little bit and go through that. Because just seeing like what he was going through, the position that put him in, and the position that put his family in, and then his approach to that, and what he did. His approach was just to promote happiness and promote supporting Purdue and promote fighting through the what his circumstances might be or what's going on really affect him, not affect his person. Just keep letting personality shine, keep being authentic, keep being himself. And that was one thing that was just really inspiring, and really heartwarming to see that, because we're going week in, week out, and we're fighting on the practice field, we're fighting trying to win games, we're going through that, and that to us is like mission critical. It's like the most important thing. But then like you see what Tyler's going through, and you take a step back and think about, okay, like this is something we're doing, that's someone's life, and it's it puts perspective around things about like what you value and what's important to you, and just getting to experience that was incredible. He's just like an incredibly inspirational person, and what I think he had a huge part in just kind of inspiring and rallying our team, and how he helped us kind of turn around our season from what it was into what it could be, and how we kind of rallied around that. And it goes back to like the culture stuff I've talked about before, and like anyone or a group, an organization, whatever you're trying to do to accomplish a goal, when you're united in that and you're focused in that, and why you're doing something, and you come in every day ready to do it, you can achieve something great. And so that's kind of what he did for us, was setting that example for us of like how to approach life, how to approach challenges, how to approach circumstances. Kind of gave us that perspective on what to focus on. And so then like during the season, when things weren't going that well to start, and we kind of started turning things around, and then getting to see kind of what he was going through and kind of what he inspired in us. It was like, okay, like seeing him going through that, it's like gave us the perspective that we needed. We kind of came together and rallied around that, and kind of lit a fire in us. And so that's what the big Ohio State win, that was the kind of shining moment where really like the climax of it, I guess, when kind of rallied around him and what he was inspiring in us, and able to do something great because of it. So yeah, just the whole experience of it was incredible. He's an inspiring person, and getting to know him briefly. I didn't know him super well before that. Us, the captains at the time, we went down to see him a couple times, and I know David had an incredibly close relationship with Tyler and his family. Just getting to meet him and interact with him was it was a pleasure. He's an inspiring person. It was a great experience.
100%. So I'm gonna wrap this up, but I just want to say thank you for coming on. It was an honor to get to talk to you, and I wish you the best with your marketing business and all the other projects that you got going on here in the future.
Man, I really appreciate that, man. I appreciate you having me on. It's fun. It's fun to get to talk about some of this stuff, kind of like go back down memory lane and stuff. So really appreciate it, man. Yep. Really appreciate it.
All right, stay safe.
Yep, you too.